Welcome to the podcast. My name is Rick Cruz, and today's podcast is about how an employee quit his job and became a successful entrepreneur, making over $4 million in 18 months. That is insane. And his name is Jawad Mansour. Jawad.
Yes, sir.
Welcome to the show.
Thank you.
We are happy to have you here.
Thank you for having me. I truly appreciate it.
Story. I know a lot of people are really looking forward to hearing how someone who, I'm assuming you didn't have a business before, right?
No.
Who started this business and just cranked out this stuff.
I've had a lot of failed businesses,
Oh.
if that kind of plays a part, but learning from these mistakes and obviously going through the trial and errors, you get to that end result that you're chasing.
Well, tell us a little bit about you. Where are you from? Where'd you grow up?
Absolutely. I was born in Inglewood, California.
Okay.
Pretty bad part of town. It was actually, we moved after I was born to Torrance, California. That was where I grew up most of my life.
Okay.
Man, it was definitely a neighborhood, that's for sure. There wasn't a day where we weren't listening to gunshots or people running through our backyard, just everything, things that you shouldn't see as a kid.
Uh-huh.
I had a chance to see them, which I think really put me into where I am today. Seeing those things and understanding that this is one side of life, but to have it completely different and have to and have the luxuries and opportunities that I didn't have really just humbles me.
Oh wow.
Yeah.
So what was your favorite? I know it sounds like bad. Everything was bad.
Yeah.
What was your favorite memory growing up?
Favorite memory is in that house. Obviously, there's a lot of bad that went into it, but it taught us how to stick to each other. Meaning, I have 3 brothers. We were all raised, in the same bedroom. We had bunk beds. It wasn't anything where we had a lot of luxuries to have our own room and different things like that. But as we went through this bad time, we became stronger and closer. Understanding that obviously you have your family regardless of anything. Any bad thing that you go through, at the end of the day, you still have your family there.
Oh wow, that's good. That's amazing. So, are you married? Do you have kids?
Yes, yeah. Married for about 4 years now.
Okay.
Got 2 beautiful little kids. 1 boy, 2.5 years old, and a little girl that's 4 months.
Oh wow.
Yeah.
Oh man, you're just getting started.
Yeah. Well,
Wow.
you say that. I'm done now. I told my wife after the second one, I was like, hey, I got my boy, I got my girl. Let me just close it up.
You guys are all done.
Yeah. Let's go enjoy life. You know what I
Uh-huh.
mean? So yeah, man, it's my wife and I. We were together maybe 8 months before we got engaged, and it all happened so fast. And when you know, right?
Uh-huh.
And you just don't search for that person, and that person randomly shows up in your life, and God, you just go. You go with it.
Kind of how we met.
That's
right?
exactly. Yeah.
Isn't that weird, huh?
Yeah, that is it.
We met. I was actually looking for a laptop for this show so that we can, create some of the stuff that we're doing.
Yeah.
And it was Facebook Marketplace, and he's over there. I was messaging him, and we met up in a parking lot of
Lifetime
Fitness.
Frisco.
Yeah.
Yep.
And he's deleting files off of his computer. I don't know what he was doing. He's like, man, I'm not done. I'm like, what kind of files you deleting on there? He's deleting them all. So we had to wait like 15 minutes. So I just asked, hey, what have you been doing? And he told me a little bit about his story. And I was like, man, this is really interesting. There's a lot of entrepreneurs that have never had that kind of success and that traction. And that's really what we want to get into today.
For sure.
I mean, so let's just talk about you a little bit, right?
Yep.
So, Salesman of the Year, 5 years in a row, right?
Yep.
Salesman of the Month, 10 out of the past 12 months.
Yep.
Top 50 sales producer in your region,
Yep.
right? So tell us a little bit about that.
Yeah. So, man, I was interested to get into the car business at a super young age. My family got into the car business after we had our little break of leaving that bad part of town where we grew up. My parents got into the car business. And it all started off with my dad, and he hit the ground running, man. First person, you always hear those stories of car salespeople that, are opening your door right when you get out, when you pull up to the dealership, right? He was one of those guys. And he was a stud when he did it. He went in there and he understood that he had a family to take care of. and that this is his only shot to do it. And man, he, climbed up that ladder very quick, made it to a GM pretty fast, and long story short, that's where I got in, right? All three of my brothers were in the car business as well, and I hit 18 years old. I was never really a fan of school. My biggest mindset was, how can I go to school? I want to be rich, right? Mm-hmm. How can I learn how to be rich by someone that's making $60,000 or $70,000 a year, right? Mm-hmm. So that never really comprehended to me. I just couldn't sit down and take it, right? So I ended up leaving school. I got into the car business and hit the ground running, and sales after sales, standing in front. I wasn't a fan of that, me personally, but I did it. I did what it took. I was 18 years old, and from 18 years old, I started making, $10,000, $15,000 a month. Wow. And it got to a point where it was just, I'm a huge fan of Grant Cardone. Okay. And I don't know if you ever heard him speak, but he joined the car business, went through every obstacle that he could. Man, it was on drugs, everything. But he got so obsessed with what he did that kind of transcended into what I do, right? I have to be so obsessed with what I do to succeed. And man, before you knew it, it was every Sunday at our dinner table, we were only talking car business. There was no other conversation we can have except for, oh man, I closed this guy here, or I made him put down 10 grand down. It was all car business from there. Mm-hmm. And before you knew it, I was selling 40 cars a month, not ever standing outside. Not one time did I stand outside to try to catch an up, is what they call it in the car business, right? Okay. I believed in, if I took care of people, that my word would get out there, and their word, they would start referring me more business. And man, before you knew it, I was doing 40 cars a month without, making a phone call.
Wow, that's insane.
Yeah.
Insane. Now, you said, did you go to college?
No, I went to college for like a year and a half.
A year and a half.
Yeah.
So is that the school you were talking about?
Yeah.
Dropping out?
And I was just like, you know what, that's not for me.
Well, that's really important. Yeah. Because I know a lot of entrepreneurs, myself included, I did community college.
Sure.
And I dropped out as well.
Sure.
It's kind of very similar mentalities.
Yeah, absolutely.
So, in college isn't the best place to figure out how to become a millionaire.
And I graduated with so many kids. I think I had 100 kids in my class. Uh-huh. And every single one of them, man, Texas Tech, A&M, and all that. And they're just like, well, I'm just going, to party and whatever I do. I want my business degree, right? But most 9 times out of 10, you're not going to use that business degree. By the time you're done with your 4-year college, you're $100,000 in debt, right? You go start a job making $40,000 a year, you're paying your whole life trying to pay off that debt. And I just couldn't see myself doing that. I didn't want anything to do with it. Mm-hmm. So it, again, that's kind of where I went in, and after a year and a half, I figured out this isn't for me, and I need to go make some money. Mm-hmm.
So you jumped in the car business.
Started
doing. I mean, that's making insane money, right? That's well over six figures. You're doing $10,000 to $15,000 a month. So you're doing really well. How long have you been doing that for? Or how long were you doing
I did it for about 10 and a half years.
Okay.
So car sales, 10 and a half years. What really stuck us to the car sales side of things is I want to say about 10 years ago, my mom had an accident with her arm. She fell off a ladder and she shattered her elbow into about 15 different pieces. Mm-hmm. Things about my mom is she was a stud in the car business too. She was in the car business selling 40 Volvos a month. And Volvo, if you know anything about a family, it runs in my family 100%. But I don't know if you know how to sell a Volvo, but Volvo is only, you have one person looking for a Volvo, right? They're not comparing different cars with a Volvo. They're coming in and they want a Volvo, right?
The safest car.
Yeah,
right?
That's what they say, right? Yeah. So 40 cars a month, she started making more than the GM. And anything in the car business, I'm sure you've probably heard, or if you don't, anything in the car business, if you ever make more than a GM, they will cut your pay quick.
Really?
They will cut it quick.
I've never heard that.
Yeah, it's crazy, right? So she ended up doing 40 cars a month, but she ended up having an accident. She fell off a ladder. She was in rehab for the longest time. Surgery didn't go too well, so she suffered nerve damage in her left arm. From there, that year that we had it kind of turned, it was great in the beginning and it turned to bad pretty fast. Mm-hmm. Finances have went down, bills to, pay their mortgage, different things like that they couldn't do. How I was raised and in my tradition is we always take care of our family. So all four of their kids went to work, paid for their mortgage, paid for their cars, paid it ever since we were, 10 years ago. Ever since I was 20, I've been, taking care of my parents and throwing them money here and there, paying their bills, different things like that. And, a lot of people are like, I can't believe you would do that. Why would you do that? That's your parents. They should be taking care of you. Because, man, the reason I am where I am today is simply because of my parents.
Exactly. Yeah. Exactly. So you did that. You did that for 10 years.
Yep.
So why would you leave a successful job to go and run the entrepreneur race?
Sure.
And how difficult that could be?
Sure. So my last 2 years of the car business was at North Central Ford.
Okay.
And I met a couple people. A guy came in and he could barely afford a regular cab F-150, right? And 3 months later, he comes back in and he's like, hey, dude, I want to go ahead and trade this truck. Took us 25 days to get him approved.
Okay.
He comes back in 3 months later. He says, I want to buy a lifted F-250 Lariat, and I want to go ahead and buy a nice Expedition Platinum for my wife. And I'm like, dude, are you insane? Like 3 months ago, we couldn't even get you bought, right? And he's like, well, I got $25,000 to put down on each. I was like, well, damn, this is a game changer, right?
Mm-hmm.
So I'm like, man, what do you do? And he's like, well, my roofing business really took off. I was like, okay, all right, roofing. Mm-hmm. That stuck into me, and it stuck in my head, right? So, all right, no big deal. This guy, every 3 months, would come in and trade for new cars, put down $40,000, $50,000 at a time. And my eyes started opening. He wasn't the only guy. Out of all these referrals I've been getting, businesses would contact me, roofers would contact me, and they say, hey, dude, I want a lifted F-250, Platinum, all decked out. I want to pay cash for it. I'm like, dude, what is going on here? So I'm telling you, man, $100,000 trucks just paying cash.
Yeah.
And I'm like, I'm making okay money, but man, this is nuts. So I took 1 full year to really analyze what the roofing industry was. I sat down, asked a billion questions. Crazy that my wife's father actually owns a roofing company out in Missouri. So I didn't really utilize him as much as I should have, but I didn't want to cross that line of like, hey, let me bug you so much, right? So, here and there I would ask a couple questions, but man, when I really started thinking, I started asking these questions, I started doing my research, and I really started to understand what this roofing industry was, working with insurance companies. Anybody knows you work with an insurance company, you're going to make money, right?
Make money.
So
Exactly.
I started doing my due diligence. It got to a point where I said, you know what? Let me go ahead and start door knocking. I'm going to go.
Did you set up a company at that point? You're just.
I had a company name. That was it.
Okay.
That was it.
All right. Did you have roofers lined up to do the work?
I didn't. So that's where the story goes in, right?
Okay.
So I asked a million questions, and I end up door knocking. YouTube was my friend at the time. I would listen to all types of different people on YouTube, how to sell, what to say. I'm already a salesman at heart, right? So I just need to know what to say in order to get to that next step. And dude, I went door knocking from 8 a.m. to 10 a.m. I went to my day job selling cars. After selling cars, I went door knocking again for a couple hours. Didn't get home until about 7, 8 p.m. It just so have happened that we just had our first kid. So, leaving your job that you're making $25,000 a month on when you just had a kid and COVID just hit, you don't know what to expect, right? So I'm going door knocking. It's 6 months straight. I'm generating business after business.
So you started getting contracts.
Oh my God, yeah. And the next step, they're like, well, what's the next step? I'm like, give me a day or so. I'll reach out to you. I'll let you know what the next step is. And these people trusted in me, right? So I went through it, and my first install came, and I had a contract signed. The homeowner was super happy. They were super excited, and I talked to the guy that came in and bought cars left and right from me, and he was like, "Hey, you can use my crew,
Okay.
So here it is, right? Here's my crew. Here's the contact name. This is what you do, right?" So I go and I order material for it. I also sold a F-250 to a guy that's a distributor at one of the material places.
Okay.
Me and him are best friends now, right? He helps me all the time. So I contacted him like, hey, dude, you remember me? I sold you your truck. I need some help. I need to order some material. This is what it is. Can you deliver it?
Did you know what the material was, or you just telling him, hey, I need just like roof flaps?
I'm literally sending him a sheet of insurance to him, and he's just like, okay, all right, I can put together something here. Mm-hmm. Okay, awesome. Asking a million questions, and he's like, all right, cool, I'll send it over. So I ended up ordering the wrong material, Okay, the roof, and again, kind of inform you a little bit about the roofing side, right? So there's a 30-year shingle, which is a higher end shingle, and then you have a 3-tab, which is your baseline, entry level shingle. This guy had a 30-year shingle on his roof, and I ordered a 3-tab. And one of my guys called me. He's like, "Hey, dude, did you know you ordered 3-tab?" And I was like, "Well, what's the difference?" And he's like, "Well, it looks completely different, And I'm like, "Well, send me a photo of it. Maybe it's not that different, right?"
Yeah.
And he's like, "Dude, you'll be able to tell if it's different." I was like, "No, man, I can't do that." So I called Travis, which is my buddy at the distributor. He's like, "Dude, I'll send it right away, 30 minutes." 30 minutes comes by, he sends the new right material. We take the old material back, we get the job done. Homeowner's super happy, super excited. From there, I knew that I needed to really upgrade my knowledge in roofing, right? So after that first install happened, I had several others lined up. I started doing as much research as possible. 3-tab shingles, architectural shingles. What's even higher than that, right? How to actually place a roof. What the different lines are to place a roof on. How to tear it off. Different things like that, right? So I started getting so obsessed with this business that all my time was dedicated to roofing. I was still going in selling cars here and there, man. But my focus shifted. I saw so much money out of those 3 or 4 deals that I did that I was just like, you know what, this is where I need to jump. And my wife is like, well, we just had a kid, we have a mortgage, we just built a house, And I'm just like, man, okay, well, this is where I got to sit down and really think about what I got to do, And everything was telling me, don't do it, man. It's too soon. You're leaving $20,000 on the table, But I'm that kind of guy where I'm just like, you know what? If my back is against the wall, I'm not going down. I'm only moving up, right? So, I ended up putting myself in that situation, and right off the bat, I left the car business. We hired about 8 people right off the bat.
Where did you hire them from?
So friends, family, I even did an Indeed post, and come to find out with roofing that doesn't ever work. What I really found out worked was networking. You have Facebook, you have Instagram, you have all these social media platforms that a lot of people don't use. So I started posting all my, roofs that I've been doing, right? And people were like, "Hey, what are you doing now? You just left the car business, dude. You were killing it in the car business. Why'd you leave?" I said, "Well, I'm doing better now. I'm going out daily. This is what I'm gonna do." And so, man, 5 or 6 people hit me up after I left. They're like, "Dude, if you jumped out of the car business making $25,000 a month, you're about your money. So I know you're doing something else that's better. Let me see what I can do. Let me see if I can jump in there with you." And we ended up hiring 6 people. And to end the year, we ended the year at $3 million.
Wow, that's insane.
Nope.
So that was, what year was that?
That was back in, it was COVID. So COVID didn't just start hitting until 2020. So that was actually last year.
So 2021.
2021.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right. That's insane. So then, and when we last talked, you said that you had some projections for this year where you could be.
Projections for this year, we should, God willing, hopefully hit 10 million.
10 million. In the second year.
Second year, yeah.
Now, is that just roofs, or are you doing other things now?
No, so as a roofer and general contractor, typically whenever you work with insurance, they're paying out for your fence and different things like that. But the majority of them are roofs.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right. So, have you gotten into solar or anything like that?
Yes, actually, glad you asked. We just launched our Infinite Solar. We launched that 3-4 days ago. We got about.
That's okay.
Yeah,
so everything's happening.
Oh yeah.
Everything's happening so soon.
Like I said, I don't hold back. If I see that it's gonna work, I just go. And so we ended up getting about 3 to 4 people under our belt right now. Great guys, man, a great group, and people that have sold solar in the past, people that have worked for Vivint or ADT or different things like that, same category stuff, and they know who we are as people. And that is, I think, one of the biggest things that has kind of helped me with my success is understanding that people trust what I do. I'm never going to shortcut a job. I'm never going to do, these little things just to profit more money. I'm going to go ahead and do the job 100%, and the money will come. You take care of so many people, that money will follow. And people saw that, and they saw our post, and they ended up wanting to come join us on the solar side.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
That's crazy. That is so crazy.
Yeah.
So, man, there's so many ways like that people are going to wonder. So that industry is so pronounced. There's so many roofers.
A million.
And it's almost kind of like almost like car salesmen.
Sure.
No offense, but I don't think everybody gets warm and fuzzies when you say, I'm going to meet a car salesman.
Not at all.
I mean, it really isn't. But now you have roofers that are almost to that level to where they're in everybody, you're getting flyers, you're getting all these things. So, and there's a lot of roofers out there that haven't achieved that success.
Right.
So what do you attribute your success to? What do you do different that, because all roofers say the same thing. Oh,
Sure.
I have integrity and I show up and I do. They all say the same thing.
Right?
It's all the same concept, but you obviously have done something way different to be that successful.
Right. So obviously in the roofing industry, there's a lot of things with your deductibles and things like that. Understanding that in today's world where the market has shifted, where everything has kind of gone up to where inflation is just everywhere, right? Understanding that, kind of take us to the car business real quick. You go in today to buy a car, they don't give a damn who you are, right? You're $10,000, $15,000 over MSRP, whether you want to buy it now, whether you don't, it is what it is, right?
Yeah.
So the customer service aspect lacks. And I think it lacks in several different career paths. Car business obviously is one of them, but in the roofing side of things, that's also a huge area where customer service lacks, right? Everybody thinks of a roofer as lifted truck, they make all the money, they just want to rob you, they just want to, take your money, do your roof real quick and leave, right? When explaining what we do, man, we don't ever go into a point of just, hey, all right, pay me and, let's just do it, right? First and foremost, hey, let's sit down and let's go over your options, right? You as a homeowner, you have several options of how you want this process to go, right? So I'm here to only help you with that. If it's anybody else, a roofer will come in and say, hey, this is how we're going to do it. This is step 1, step 2, step 3. No, don't get me wrong. We have our steps and our formats to these things, but we also want to have the homeowner have a little bit of control, right? Hey, this is your home. Tell us what you want. Tell us if there's anything else we can help you with. Right?
So you take time to educate the customer.
100%.
Right.
Not every customer knows the roofing industry, right? Mm-hmm. Every customer knows, hey, all right, I'm going to pay you my deductible. I'm going to give you all the insurance money. You guys are going to give me service. It is what it is, right? Mm-hmm. One of the cool things that we do, and I have a good story to kind of back this, is first couple of deals sold, I went to a lady and filed a claim with her. Or actually, I didn't file a claim with her. She was going through all the problems in the world. Her husband just passed, and she had damage on her roof. I inspected her roof. And I went to her and I was just like, hey, let's go ahead and file a claim. I think, we can get this bought 100%. And not only your roof, your gutters, your downspouts, your fence, screens, like everything, right? You have a couple leaks inside, we can fix all of it under insurance. And she's just like, you know what? My husband used to handle this. Like, I can't deal with it right now. I said, no big deal. I ended up leaving that house, and I'm just like, man, what can I do to really get this lady to buy in? She was already on the fence to file that claim, but what can I do? And I remember a conversation with my little brother, which is actually one of my partners in the roofing deal. And I ended up closing a deal previous to that, and my little brother was like, hey, let's send him something. I said, well, why would I send him anything? We closed the deal. Like, what are we doing? Yeah. And he's like, let's send him a box of cookies. I said, okay, all right. We'll send him a box of cookies, right? I don't know if you guys know Tiff's Treats. Mm-hmm. Best cookies ever. So we ended up sending a box of cookies. This customer was so happy at the fact that we sent over this $21 box of cookies that it was a game changer, right? So this lady, I ended up saying, you know what? I wasn't a fan of it, so let me do it anyway. I'll send a box of cookies to this lady. Yeah. A couple hours later, she calls me. She said, Joe, that was one of the nicest things anybody's ever done for me. I'm going through a heartache right now, but this gave me somewhat of hope and cheer. And I said, well, I pray for you. I hope everything is going well, and I hope you get through this time. And she said, let's go ahead and file that claim. Dude, I call my brother. I'm like, dude, you wouldn't believe what just happened. This lady was just all about it. And from there, I started understanding, you know what? I did the same thing in the car business. I always gave something for free to these customers just so they feel, hey, you know what? I won a little bit, right? Every customer wants to feel like they won. Mm-hmm. I won a little bit. So I ended up starting doing that to every single homeowner that we touched. Whether they went with us, whether they didn't. They got a box of cookies, and it was a little note that goes on the inside, hey, thank you so much for the opportunity. If you need anything moving forward, don't hesitate to give us a call. And you can't imagine the amount of deals that we've closed simply from that. And a lot of these roofers, right, they're not giving anything back. So we make it a priority that understanding that, hey, a homeowner is going to come out of pocket $5,000 or $6,000, right? Not something that they were looking for. We came to them, and they're going to come out this money. Let's go ahead and try to give something back to them. We had a homeowner out in Dallas. All his kids went to Baylor. We ended up buying him Baylor mugs. At the end of the job, we ended up sending him Baylor mugs. He called me. He was like, dude, you are my lifetime roofer. Moving forward, I will never call another roofer. That alone shows who you are. And from there, man.
Don't roofs have a lifetime warranty anyways?
Not at all. Especially in the state of Texas,
You're
man.
like, yeah, I'm your lifetime roofer. You're never going to see me again.
The state of Texas, man.
That's
People
true.
are like, hey, when's hail season? I'm like, I mean,
every
hail in February,
other
hail
month.
in November. Like, what
Every
are we
other
doing?
month in Texas.
Right. So it's, man, it's been great to kind of see, those little things that we can do for people to really go a long
And that's
way.
kind of the philosophy, I think, of what Gary Vee, where he talked about finding
Gary
things.
Vee's a good dude.
It's amazing. He's an amazing. If you haven't heard of him, you should definitely look him up on YouTube. He has a lot of really good ideas. And I remember how he was talking about a story when he first started his business, that he was researching one of his customers, and he just found, I think he sent him a bottle of wine. They started off giving bottles of wine, and then they got to where it was very specific to the customer. They were learning about the customer, what they liked, and they would get them something based off of that.
It's finding the hot buttons, man. I think it
just shows how much more you're willing to go for your customer than someone who just is transactional.
100%.
Hey, I'll fix your roof. That's not really what they want.
Right.
A lot of people want that relationship aspect, and then going that extra mile just kind of shows that you care more. It's like, oh, wow.
100%.
He actually looked in. He actually is praying for me because I'm going through a hard time. He sent me something small, and it may have been some of the. You're a contractor,
Sure.
Sure. Have you ever gotten a birthday card from like some random dentist's office or something? And it's just like, these guys remembered. It's just something so small, and it just puts them right back in your head. They cared enough to remember me, to think about me.
100%.
It makes apparently the biggest difference.
Oh, a huge difference.
The $3 million difference.
Yeah,
right?
no, it's been, I talked to Tiff Streets. I'm like, dude, you guys need to promote me or something. The amount of Tiff Streets we're selling, I need a little discount here.
You just include them with all your
every
stuff,
single one, man. It goes as a line item on our list. Every salesperson knows it. They know this customer's getting Tiff Streets.
So what was kind of one of the biggest challenges you've had to overcome with your business?
As a business owner?
As a business owner.
This was my first somewhat successful business. Before that, I had a transport company that I didn't do any due diligence in, man. A buddy of mine said, hey, dude, let's go ahead and join this business. I was young. I said, you know what, let's go ahead and do it. I ended up losing my butt on it. And, from there, I've learned about these mistakes. And, thankfully, I didn't have really much issue building this business. One of the biggest things I did have was finding honest salespeople. In today's world where people still don't want to work, they're getting stimulus checks, and just chilling at home, filing for unemployment, different things like that. It's just, I guess it's somewhat my fault too, because I try to find someone that's very similar to me, and trying to understand that, people won't be exactly the way you are. People won't be they won't think the exact way you do, but understanding that that's okay, and still trying to help them manage it and maybe think of a different way to do it is something I think I've gone through a lot with building this business, and understanding that, man, if I don't do it myself, who's going to do it? And I've been challenging myself to delegate a little bit more and really start to grow this team to where they understand the process just like I do. And they have the same mindset just like I do to go out every day and kill it and do different things, right? And so that has been, I think, one of the most challenging parts is understanding that not everybody can think the same way you do, but that's okay. They still are great people. They still probably do something different than what you do. You just got to really sit down, really talk to these people, and figure out how you can critique what they're saying or what they're doing.
So do you do like daily sales meetings or training?
Yeah, I mean, not really daily. We do them, so every Saturday we take our guys out to breakfast.
Okay.
Before we knock. It's a Saturday knock, right? And then, every Monday or Tuesday, we typically try to host a meeting at the office and just go over normal things. It's just what are the obstacles that you're facing? What are these people telling you that you can't jump over? And all of us, getting together, I think the saying was one head was great, but having multiple heads in it, you can accomplish a whole lot more. Having 10 people, 15 people sit at this table and really brainstorm how you can get into the door, how you can, instead of a homeowner slamming the door in your face, what you could do different to really get in there, I think has been huge for us. And honestly, just changing a little bit more on our salespeople and them seeing a little bit more of the success out of it too.
Oh wow, that's amazing. That is so you guys still knock on doors.
Oh man, yeah.
And how big is your team now?
Right now, there are about 14 people.
14 people. Wow. Those are all full-time employees?
Full-time, yeah. Oh, yeah.
Oh, wow.
Full-time.
Now, do you guys have a location yet?
Yeah, in McKinney.
Oh,
yeah. Yeah, it's in Adriatica. I don't know if you've ever been there. Adriatica is a really nice area, but one of our buddies, he actually owns the whole floor, and he said, hey, I'll give you one of these offices, pay me X amount of dollars, and you'll be fine. So we ended up, doing something small, right? We didn't know how fast we were going to grow, right? We didn't know where we would go, but having a spot to meet and talk and go over different things has been great.
It's been great.
Yeah.
So for the person that's watching, that's thinking about quitting their job and starting a business, what advice would you have for them?
Jump. No. I mean, obviously understanding that I've been through a business that has failed and I've seen it, and just a little backstory on this business is it was a transport business, right? It was hot shot, F-350, 50-foot trailer, all of it. In that business, you can't find drivers just like we can't find workers, right? Mm-hmm. So, I had a situation where a driver backed out. Dude, I'm driving this 50-foot trailer all the way to Houston, dropping 3 cars off, come back, going to pick up more. And that's the things that I had to do to become, an owner or understand that this is what I have to do. But after that failed business, it really stood out to me that before you make that full leap, really take the time to research, right? This business isn't going anywhere, right? You're not doing anything. Really understand the side of the business, and on top of that, really start to see somewhat of an income before you make that jump. In the car business, I've seen one too many people say, hey, dude, I'm going to go, I have a buddy of mine. He created a watch, right? And he was like, I'm going to go do this. I'm going to go jump and do this. I was like, well, hold on, dude. Before you jump, let's see if you make some money from it first. Why do that? You're making consistent money. Why jump? And he ended up leaving. Never listened to me. He ended up leaving. Ended up going to he does mortgage. He makes about $5,000-$6,000 a month. This was always one of those guys that had bigger dreams, right? Like, I want to do something else. But the problem is these salary jobs, these salespeople jobs, they capture your dream. They don't ever want you to get to that next level, right? When you're selling in a job, in a car business, your GM wants you to sell, right? Just like any other job, any person that you work for, they want you to focus on sales so they can benefit, right? So understanding that, if you have that entrepreneurial mindset and you really want to do this and, you understand that there's risk jumping into it, do your due diligence. That's all I say is do your due diligence before you make that leap.
And so like your friend who made the watch, maybe he could have created a website first and then tried to sell it for a little while.
That's the thing, man, is he wanted to put so much money into these different things that he didn't even want to go out and sell it himself, right? In my mind, I'm like, you know what? If I'm going to open up a watch, right? Or if I'm going to make a watch, I'm going to go try to sell as many watches as I can first. Before I go ahead and start throwing money in marketing or anything else, let me see what I can do with it. Because I know if I get a chance to sell somebody, that's the chance right there. Yeah. I'm going to sell somebody, right? But do that first, right? A lot of these people, and this kind of resonated with me as well, is everybody wants to be a boss, right? Everybody wants to be an owner of something, but they don't want to do the work to get there. And that's the biggest thing that I've kind of seen is everybody sees the success. They don't see what you've gone through to get there. Have a story. Do it. Go 100%. If you have a plan B, that plan A is never going to work, right? Stick to one thing and actually go to it. Spend your life dedicated to doing this. Be obsessed with it. And, you know, I was obsessed with roofing, and, you know, it took me up, and hopefully even more successful to come. But there's a lot of nights that I couldn't spend with my kid and my wife. You know, there's a lot of days where I couldn't spend at home trying to worry about, you know, I want to see my kid grow up or anything like that. My whole focus was I want to give them the life that I never had, right? So understanding that, if you have that in the back of your mind and you always have that motivation to push, there's nothing that can stop you.
That is awesome. That is so awesome. Thank you so much for coming on the show. And what was the name of your business?
Yes, Infinite Roofing. And then
Infinite
we
Roof.
just started the Infinite Solar.
And they are in McKinney, Texas.
We're in McKinney, Texas.
McKinney,
Yeah.
right? So if you need a roof, if you need some solar, get a hold of Jawad. And we will put his information in the links below.
Awesome.
Guys, thank you guys for tuning in. If this was helpful for you, go ahead and hit subscribe. Hit like button if you did like it, if you guys want to hear more from this. Thank you guys so much. We will see you guys next time.